And we are live. Can everybody see me and hear me? Is the stream looking good? Okay. All right. We're looking good here. I'm posted everywhere. Okay. So I am going to stream for about an hour here, I think. And I'm probably going to try to get some Spider-Man in on Twitch afterwards because I can't go out like this, guys. I cannot have my day ended by that nonsense. So I kind of want to do a little bit of streaming tonight on Twitch, so I probably will. But we gotta discuss this game for a little bit here. So I'm gonna give people a couple, about maybe a little bit longer to gather up. Not long. I don't expect a lot of people here because it's late. It's Thanksgiving, and nobody wants to talk about this team anymore. People are over it, and I get it. I mean, let's be real here. This team doesn't deserve our investment. It doesn't deserve our time. It doesn't deserve our emotions. So we're going to do what we got to do. I'm going to talk through this game real quick, give it a quick summary from my perspective, and then I'll open it up to the chat questions. So, Seahawks lose 31-13. I think the game was worse than the final score. I feel like we lost like 42-2, honestly. We had 10 minutes of competency in the third quarter that made things look not terrible, but for the most part that game was terrible. Offense did nothing really the whole game. They put together a couple of partial decent drives, but couldn't sustain anything long enough to actually produce. They had really one field goal drive and then a couple of almost field goal drives. Almost field goal drives are not a real thing, by the way. The offensive line played really poorly, which isn't surprising given who we're playing, I guess, but they didn't play well. Gino got sacked a lot, holding onto the ball too long, I think, on some of those plays. He just, at a certain point, you got to just let it rip. And if you throw a pick, you throw a pick. So the third down offense was horrendous. DK had a bad game. First time this year I've been mad at DK at all. Like, you guys know, I'm a DK supporter. I think DK's played fine this year, given circumstances, but today he was actually pretty bad. Once again, the offensive play calling's a disaster. Almost all of our passing plays are to the boundary, like little out routes, very little using the middle of the field, and when you do, it works. Like, we had a pass to the middle of the field to Disley for 20 yards. We had a pass to the middle of the field to Fant for 20 yards that picked up 3rd and 17. So when we do it, it works, but we just don't really want to do it very much. Bizarre. Confounding. So offense, like, I guess Charbonnet, I thought did what he could. I guess I think Charbonnet did pretty good. Other than that, there's not really a lot I can say about the offense. JSN had a nice catch, and I guess he played a pretty okay game, but it wasn't enough to get anything meaningful going. So yeah, offense sucked. Defense was slightly better, but it still was bad. A lot of soft zone, a lot of easy completions, a lot of give me first downs. There was obviously a big play made by the defense. There was some QB pressure put on Purdy, which was nice to see. But a lot of it didn't result in anything good. We had one sack on the game, and Purdy was able to do a lot of good stuff to avoid sacks. Um, I thought Brooks, I guess, played a pretty good game. I thought Adams actually played well. I'll give those guys credit. Witherspoon, he did the thing. Witherspoon actually played really well for my money, so I'll give Witherspoon his flowers here. Leonard Williams played awesome. I mean, Leonard Williams might be our best player right now, and yet we're still in a situation where the trade is bad because we keep losing. So that's the situation right now. So again, the defense was a little bit better than the offense, but it still was bad. We got one kind of fluky turnover that turned into an immediate touchdown, and that was cool. But other than that, it was bad. And special teams were bad too. We fumbled a punt return, so DJ Dallas, like I made a video earlier this year praising him for playing well, but now he's lost 2 fumbles on punt returns, and this one was bizarre. So much for that. We missed a field goal. Jason Myers, you're dead to me. Like, I hope you feel good about getting all that money because you don't deserve most of it. And we'd be better off with a rookie kicker making the absolute minimum right now. 6 missed kicks already, and we still got a bunch of games left. So, well spent. And I guess Eskridge was the only bright spot of this game. Really, we had a good kick return, a couple, and I guess Eskridge did a couple nice things, but that's about it. But to me, talking about this game is not even really worth the time. This game, again, I said this in my post-game video, I'm going to say it again. To me, describing the finer points of this game is kind of like describing the scientific phenomenon of a hurricane right after a hurricane destroys someone's house. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. No one cares about how the hurricane formed. The only thing that matters is that the hurricane just destroyed my house, and I'm going to punch you in the face if you keep trying to describe the scientific phenomenon of the hurricane. So I think this game needs to be a big wake-up call to people who still believe that Pete Carroll's a great coach and that he's worth what we're paying him, worth keeping around, worth being the steward of this new Seahawks era post Russell Wilson. I think this game needs to serve as something of a wake-up call in tandem with the Rams game last week. So many troubling signs, so many concerning things that he's doing, falling back into the same soft zone crap. I believe he's butting in on this offense and interfering with what Waldron would prefer to do. I think he's dictating that we don't use the middle of the field and run all our pass plays to the outside. I think he dictates all the A-gap and B-gap runs we do. I think he restricts our willingness to do certain things on offense that Waldron would want to do. So I don't know what else to say other than, Pete, you're back in the crosshairs. You were off the S list for a little while there, but you got to go right back on it because you're regressing. Not only are the results regressing, but your process is regressing. There were some things in this game that I liked. Like, I liked that he benched Woolen. A couple years ago, he wouldn't have done that. A couple years ago, he would have just left Woolen out there to miss 800 tackles and just let it go. He would have just lived with it. But in this game, he's like, no, Woolen, you can't tackle, you're on the bench. I like that. I like the fact that Frank Clark was inactive for this game. But then you look at that, and within 5 seconds, there's more bad process. The way the defense is running, the way the offense is being run. Remember, guys, Pete Carroll is the head coach. He is responsible for, on some level, pretty much everything that happens with this team from week to week in the game. And as we move forward, I think it's really important that we start to divvy up credit and blame appropriately. I think that it is very critical here that we start to understand something with this rebuild that started with the trade of Russell Wilson a year and a half ago. And this is something that I really want every single person watching this stream to understand going forward, because I think people are unaware of this, and I think it leads to a misconception. So I'm going to lay this out very quickly. Pete Carroll did not want to trade Russell Wilson. If Pete Carroll had his way, then Russell Wilson would still be our quarterback. He would be probably the highest paid player in the NFL, one of the highest paid players ever. So a lot of people who defend Pete, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, how can you think about firing Pete Carroll when he pulled off this amazing Russell Wilson trade? He didn't pull anything off. And I'm going to make a video about this tomorrow. Pete Carroll did everything he could to prevent the Russell Wilson trade. If it were up to him, it never would have happened. That is Pete's own words after the trade. These last 2 drafts, do you really think these last 2 drafts that pretty much everyone agrees have been really good? We've hit 2 really awesome drafts in a row. Do you really think that Pete Carroll was the one who wanted to draft Charles Cross or Abe Lucas, tackles that are playing in the air raid in college for most of the time? Do you think he wanted to draft Ken Walker, an outside zone runner, when he spent his whole career going after A-gap and B-gap runners? Do you think he wanted to draft JSN, a slot receiver who does his work mostly over the middle when he hates throwing the ball to the middle of the field? I seriously doubt it. So the things about this rebuild that have been good so far, the things that pretty much all the fans like, probably didn't have a lot to do with Pete, right? They have to do with John. So you want to give John credit for what's happened over the last year and a half. Okay, I can see that. But straight up, it's time to stop giving Pete credit for things that John is doing, because I think it's very clear now that John has a decent amount of personnel control on this team, and he is exercising it. Okay, so I think that pretty much sums up everything that I want to say. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the chat now. Again, we're going to go until a little after 11, I think. And then I'll try to get some Twitch time in. Michael, is there any way we can... Oh, wait a minute. By the way, there was a super chat. Hold on. Michael Slicker, thank you for the $4.99. Do we trade DK for draft picks? Who on the team is worth a draft pick? Leonard Williams trade looking like an L. We can't trade DK, guys. The money doesn't work for it. You can't trade DK, and honestly, DK is the least of our problems. Like, this is really the first game DK's played this year where he was like any kind of a real issue. So for me, no. I think the DK thing is, I think DK is the least of our problems right now. Not so sure with Shane calling a design QB scramble with a 33-year-old Geno Smith. I mean, his arm doesn't really work that well at the moment, so I don't mind him using Geno to scramble, but that particular scramble was very weird. Pretentious Cameron, Brendan, I know Pete is probably the bigger issue, but I really want Waldron fired tomorrow morning. I mean, okay, you can get that, but do you really think you're gonna come out tomorrow with anything better? Do you really think the guy who replaces Waldron's going to be better? Do you think the guy you hired this offseason is going to be better? I seriously doubt it. Like, I don't think there's a good solution here. Our offense looks the same no matter who the coordinator is because Pete can't keep his hands off of the offense. That's the only conclusion that makes any sense to me. We hired a coach from the McVay tree and we don't run pass plays over the middle. At minimum, that's very weird. You would have to give up draft picks along with DK just to get a team to take him off our books. It's not even an option. I don't agree with that. I think DK has a lot of value. I don't really have a big problem with the way DK is playing this year, but either way, I mean, the point is, I don't think it makes any sense to trade him. Like he's still one of the most feared receivers in the league, and you can see that in the way defenses play him. So are we stuck with Pete until Jody sells the team? It's going to be a long 2 years if that's the case. I mean, I suspect that she could be forced to get off of Pete. I think that it would require an extreme reaction from the fan base. People are going to have to stop going to games. People are going to have to stop giving the team money. People are going to have to give their tickets away to fans of the opposing team. It's going to have to be like an embarrassment thing where she goes, this is affecting my bottom line. Like maybe Jody Allen doesn't really care about, whether or not the team is successful, but I'm sure she'll care if the team stops making her as much money as she wants. So you impact that, maybe. But I don't know. I do believe, I do honestly think that this fan base has shown that they will find better things to do if the team is not performing. Um, we saw this in 2021. Our attendance went way down when we went 7-10, and the team was kind of boring to watch. So we did see the fan base was like, I'm out. I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to games. I will go do other things. So if that happens and that keeps happening, then yeah, I think eventually somebody's going to step in and do something. But look, I firmly believe that Pete Carroll is soft. I think Pete Carroll is soft like a wet tissue. I think that if you push him a little bit, he might just leave of his own accord. Like I know a lot of you guys remember 2 years ago after the Cardinals loss, 2 years ago we lost to the Cardinals, and he basically had a mental breakdown in his post-game press conference. He basically like just completely he stormed out of the press conference for no reason. Then he came back and he was crying. And he's like, "I'm sorry, guys. I just got all emotional and stuff. I'm just so sad that we keep losing." And like nothing happened to trigger that. He just did it. And like I believe that if let's say a couple weeks from now we play Philly and we get whipped, and the Seahawks fans, because it's a home game, just start booing the crap out of the team for 3 hours, then I don't think he would handle it well. I think he would have another kind of mental breakdown, and maybe there's a certain point where he would be like, "This isn't fun for me anymore. I quit." We could win against the Cowboys if we run the ball and throw the ball in the middle of the field. I mean, I think the Cowboys are frauds. I do think the Cowboys are frauds. They beat up on bad teams, but right now we might be one of those bad teams they beat up on. Is that the game that Pete said he doesn't have any answers? Yeah, I think so, Tommy. I think so. Brendan, thank you for the recap video. You hit the nail on the head. Keep up the good work, man. Thank you, Owen. All right, we got 150 people in here, so real quick, I want to say thank you everybody for coming out tonight to talk about this. Um, If you want to help me out, there are a few things you can do. Please like the stream if you haven't already. We have 27 likes and 155 people in here. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. We have a goal to hit 15,100 by the end of the month. We are very close to 15,000, which that would be a milestone worth celebrating. If you want to go above and beyond that, there are a couple things you can do to help out financially. You can become a channel member. Channel members have been really kind of slow lately. Channel memberships, they've just been kind of bleeding away slowly. We're all the way down to 119. I think mostly because the team keeps losing and people aren't engaged, so there's not a lot of pull to do stuff like that. So yeah, memberships are down. You can donate via Super Chat. You can also click the link at the top of the description to tip. You can pledge to my Patreon, link in the description. I'm on Facebook and X, so follow me on both sites if you use Facebook or X. I'm starting to use both more. You become a member by clicking the join button down below or clicking the link that comes up when you do !member, like I'm going to do in chat right now. You click that link that just comes up to become a member. That's about it. Thank you, everybody. Carson, thank you for the member message. 29 months. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for your content helping us get through this rough but very important time for the franchise. Hope you had a good one. Yeah, this is going to be very important, I fear. Like, we did a great job. We did a great job with the Wilson trade. We knocked that one out of the park in a situation where most teams would never have done it. But now we need to make the right decisions here, or else we're going to waste that. We need to make the right decisions right now, or else we are going to waste that. I'm tired of sneaking into the playoffs and getting smoked in the wild card. I mean, that's like the best case scenario for this team right now, it feels like, isn't it? If that's even the best case scenario, some people are going to say, well, Pete's going to hide behind that. Some people would prefer that he can't. Is there any way we can get rid of Draymond Jones? If we re-sign Williams, then Draymond is practically useless. He is not an edge player. Is there any way we can save the $18 million a year? You can save a little bit of it, but most of that money would be dead. Most of that money would be dead, so I think that you're better off keeping him and trying to make this work. He's a good player. You just need to use him right. Like, really, guys, we have a good roster. I see a lot of these people blaming players. And, like, people are bashing on DK, bashing on Draymond, bashing on Jamal Adams or Quandre Diggs. Like, guys, you get a good coach in here, I think these players would look way better. I think right now we're trying to force these players into situations where they're not allowed to thrive. Like, if you traded DK Metcalf to a team like the Chiefs, he'd probably have 1,500-yard seasons. If you traded Jamal Adams to a defense like the Vikings, he would probably be an all-pro again, or close. So, straight up, like, I see all these people dumping on Carroll and Waldron and Hurt and these coaches. And then I see those same people turn around and dump on the players and say the players aren't performing well enough. Like, that's because of the coaches. Like, come on, guys. Think it through here. DK's dropped like 2 passes this year, by the way. I just want to put that out there. I think he has like 2 drops. So this idea that he has bad hands, like, it's patently false. Joseph, thank you for the membership. Welcome to Elite Channel membership. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Up to 120 now. In 2017, I started rooting for us to lose so we could fire Bevel. Now I'm kind of hoping we miss the playoffs so we force a coaching change again. Well, I got to be honest, pretentious Cameron. If the coaching change is not Carroll, then who cares? Like, if we get rid of Waldron, we're going to bring in another guy who's going to do the same things. It's Pete's offense. Yeah! Oh, the Kivers. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the sub. DK has a bad game every time we play the night. Did you watch the playoff game last year? DK was probably our best player. Come on, guys. Quinn Martin, thank you for the sub. See, this is the thing that frustrates me. People make stuff up trying to make their points. Like, this stuff is so easy to look up. It's so easy to look this stuff up. And yet, people just feel compelled to make things up that are, like, any 6-year-old can look them up. Like, no, DK does not have a big drop problem. He has, like, 2, maybe 3 drops this year. No, he doesn't always be bad. He's not always bad against the Niners. He was great against the Niners in the playoffs last year. Pete needs to go, plain and simple. I think we're back on that. I really have to declare myself in favor of that going forward. Like, I eased off on Pete for the last year and a half because I thought we were doing some things better. I thought we were taking steps in the right direction. But there is no way I can stand by him after that game, after the game before it, after the game before that. Like, you make that trade. You make the Leonard Williams trade. And then you go in the tank. Like, Leonard Williams has been awesome. Leonard Williams has been awesome since he got here. And yet you can't win a game. You can barely win a game. Be calm, see clearly. Thank you for the super chat, $2. It's time to move in a new direction. Bye, Pete. I'm super ready for it after that one. Like, he didn't even get the team up for this game. It was 24-3 at halftime. There was no part of this team that was even motivated to play. There was no part of this team that was up and ready to go for this one. And this is a nationally televised game on Thanksgiving at home against your division rival with everything on the line. Samuel Carlson, thank you for the $1.99. Same issues with every OC and DC. Pete is problem. Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, this offense looks basically the same no matter who the coordinator is. It's not okay. It's not okay. Waldron is probably going to go somewhere else and be successful. Does Schneider have to go if Carroll is fired? I feel like Schneider has done a great job the last 2 seasons, but most times both GM and coach get fired in a combo. I don't think so, Ayaan. Like, maybe they're connected at the hip, but they disagree so much now. Like think about over the last year and a half alone, how much have they disagreed? John was done with Wilson and wanted to trade him. Carroll didn't. John won. They disagreed, I believe, on Cross. I believe they disagreed on Lucas. They probably disagreed on K9. They probably disagreed on JSN. So they disagree all the time. What happened last season regarding the coaching and scheme, which gave people like you and Brandon from the Hawks Nest hope for this franchise? I mean, the offense was good last year. The offense was good. There were some positive signs. There were signs that we were headed in the right direction here. And there's been regression this year. I don't think John has the power to fire Pete. I'm pretty sure the only guy who can fire Pete is Jody. Like, I think John could maybe go to Jody and be like, look, I'm going to quit if you don't fire Pete. And he could force it like that. But I don't think he can actually fire Pete. Have you noticed that Geno keeps waiting for someone to be open before throwing the ball? He has no anticipation this season. Like, this game, the thing that Geno did that I didn't like was it did seem like he was holding onto the ball too long. And I understand that against this Niners defense, you're going to throw interceptions if you just throw it up and hope. But at a certain point in this game, he needed to just throw it up and hope. Armstrong and Allen can fire Pete. Yeah, I don't think Schneider has that power. I mean, honestly, I'm not really that upset at Geno. He's not playing very well, but I'm very reticent to put a lot of this on him when it seems like the offense is so stagnant on a play calling level And the interior of the offensive line it's the worst case scenario. Like, somehow Damian Lewis is playing the worst football of his career in a contract season. Evan Brown has basically turned into Austin Blythe, and Phil Haynes is having maybe his worst season in a contract year. Dan Quinn is not going to come here. Dan Quinn is not going to come here if Pete Carroll's going to be looking over his shoulder. How mad would you be if John quits after this season and Pete is still here? I feel like it could happen. I would be really worried that all this good stuff we've done over the last year and a half is about to be canceled out. Because I really do believe that the poor drafting of pre-2022 had a lot to do with Pete interfering with the scouting department. There are stories. If you guys pay attention to the Seahawks, you've heard these stories before. These stories of Pete Carroll going into the scouting department for the Seahawks and their big board that they've spent so hard working on over the offseason. Like, very carefully cultivating the big board based on hours and hours of scouting and tape, etc., etc., etc. And then he would just start scrambling it around based off his gut feeling. Like, he would just be like, I feel like this guy's better than that guy, so I'm gonna throw him up there. I feel like this guy's not that good. He would just completely screw it up. I remember hearing stories about how the scouts really didn't appreciate it because Pete wasn't the one grinding on scouting tape. He wasn't the one actually putting work into looking at these players. He would just be like, I feel like this is right. Brendan, what do you think about John handling the hiring process for a new coach if Carroll was fired? I mean, you kind of have to. You kind of have to because you need your GM and coach to be able to at least somewhat work together. You can't have a GM and coach who have no synergy. They can disagree, but there needs to be some synergy. How you feeling about next Thursday? Same result. I mean, the Cowboys probably have a better defense than the Niners. And, Deron Bland, it feels like every pick six he's had this year have been on those out routes that we run like 8 billion times a game because it's the only play we know how to run. If your first step is firing Pete, then what would the following steps be? I mean, I think you bring in another coach and then you say, do what you want to do. If you want, like, bring in another coach. I don't know who, but bring in another coach and you say, what do you want? If you want Geno Smith, you get Geno Smith. If you want Jaden Daniels, you get Jaden Daniels. If you want, like you got to bring in the new coach and then give the coach what he wants. And he might want, I mean, for all we know, he might want to trade 4 first-round picks for Caleb Williams. And you either need to do that or you need to say, sorry, we can't hire you because we're not going to do that. Like, you need to do this the right way. Like, you can't hire a guy and then say, okay, we're going to hire you, but we're going to force you to take this stuff that you don't actually want. That's how Jerry Jones does things when he hires coaches, and it doesn't work very well. What do you think about Quandary this season? I mean, he's okay. He's not worth the money. I think we avoid throwing over the middle because Pete is so worried about throwing turnovers. That's exactly what it is, Tommy. That's exactly what it is. 100%. What is this team's offensive identity about to enter December? And I'm trying to figure out what this team is trying to establish to start every game. We don't have one. We don't have one. I don't think Waldron would. I mean, again, like, a lot of people are throwing Waldron under the bus right now. I'm not really going to do that because I really think this all comes back from Pete. But I don't want him to be the head coach either. I don't think he has a head coaching. I don't think he's head coach material. He's kind of like Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett can be a decent enough coordinator, but he doesn't have the head coaching chops, I don't think. Should we trade a player to get a second round pick back? I don't know who it would be. Who are you going to trade? Like, who's the guy? ICD, I just explained why I feel the way that I feel. Like, I don't know how I can describe how I feel about the Waldron thing more than I just did. If you don't understand what I just said, then I I don't think I can dumb it down any further than I just did. Are you worried about Woolen? He just needs to learn how to tackle. Ken Walker might be back for the next game, which surprises the hell out of me. Which, good for him. Couldn't we franchise tag Brooks and then trade him like he did with Clark? Is he worth a second? I don't know. Maybe. I don't feel like he is because he plays a devalued position. But maybe. He's worth something. Yeah, I have no idea what DJ Dallas was doing on that play. I like Pete as a person, but outside of being a good motivator, he does absolutely nothing from X's and O standpoint, it seems. Is he even a good motivator now? He did not motivate the team this season. For this game, excuse me. Like, where was the motivation for this game? We were down 24-3 at halftime. Gino equals capital. I don't think you can trade Gino. I don't think you can trade Gino. I think the most likely outcome here, and this is actually going to be the case even if we fire Pete. I think next year you let Drew Lock go, you draft a quarterback, and then you go into the season with Gino as your starting quarterback until such a time as it makes sense to play the rookie, whoever it is that you drafted. And maybe it never makes sense and you just stick with Gino. But I think that's how this goes. I don't think the rookies that we can get with our picks are going to be day one starters. Like, I don't think Cam Ward is a day one starter. I like him, but I don't want him to be starting day one necessarily. I don't want God, who else? Riley Leonard to be a day one starter. I don't want Quinn Ewers to be a day one starter. Like, these are all pretty raw players. So I want Gino to be the starter for the start of the year next year. And then we play it from there. If he keeps playing really, really well, then Gino continues to stay the starter. But eventually, if things don't go well, you put the rookie in. Thoughts on Seattle drafting the UW quarterback? I think he's going to be gone before we pick. I think he's going really high. I think Penix is going to get overdrafted. I'm not like I love Penix for obvious reasons, but I don't really like him that much as an NFL prospect. He's going to get hurt. Jaden Daniels might be a first round pick. I don't think he should go in the top 10 the way some people are talking about, but he could be a first round pick. In that case, pay Kirk Cousins with what money? Kirk Cousins is going to be like Aaron Rodgers expensive. He's going to be like the only reason why he wouldn't be crazy expensive is because of the Achilles injury. Thoughts on Spencer Rattler? He's all right. I'm not a big fan. He's okay. Like, there are some real problems with Rattler, but the talent is intriguing. Kevin Dilly, there's way too much going on with this team besides receiver for me to even think about receiver right now. Would you rather have Nix or Rattler or Leonard? Probably Leonard. I actually like Leonard a lot. Jake Bobo was out there. He caught a pass. Do you want Nix? I can't really get behind Nix. He is playing really well this year, though. I just look at Nix and I keep thinking Taysom Hill. Like, I look at Nix and I just keep thinking this is not going to work in the NFL the way it works in college. Whereas Brian Monet, he's hurt. I don't think he's coming back this year. He tore his ACL in December last year. Is Pete looking like Jeff Fisher? That's a good comp, actually. Like that's a Jeff Fisher's a great comp because like there were some players on that Rams team that everybody thought were awful. Like people thought Jared Goff was a bust. And then Sean McVay shows up and Goff makes the Super Bowl and Goff is making Pro Bowls and Goff is putting up MVP numbers. You bring in the next there are coaches out there just waiting to get hired. You could find the next Kevin O'Connell. You could find the next there are other good examples out there too. Everyone always says the next Sean McVay, the next Kyle Shanahan, but really like the next Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell's doing a great job in Minnesota. There are guys like that out there. You just need to find them. Drake May is going to be gone way before we pick. I think Drake May is a top 5 pick. What happened to Puna Ford? He doesn't play. He's on the Bills and he never plays anymore. Does May give bust vibes? I mean, I like him. I don't know if I like him in the top 5, but I do think he's good. The next Kevin O'Connell is Waldron. Well, you know what I mean, Nick. I mean, like, the next coach that is not really highly thought of, but ends up being a good head coach. Like, he's not one of the hot names. Pete is just the white Mike Tomlin. Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know very many Steelers fans. I heavily suspect there are some Steelers fans out there who just want the team to have a 2-win season so they can just fire him. Like I think they're tired of batting around in the middle every year and they just want to have a tank season so they can blow it up. But it drives them crazy that they can never have that bad season. Ben Johnson? Yeah, that's the big name that people talk about right now. I wouldn't be against that. Yeah. You know, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I feel like that there are some people out there, not a lot of people, but there are still some people out there who are still kind of in that mode of Pete versus Russ. Like we traded Russ and it worked out great, so therefore Pete must be doing great. It's like I think some people need to realize it is totally possible for us to be correct in moving on from Russ and also needing to be move on from Pete. I feel like that Pete versus Russ thing got so strong in that off season that some people were like, okay, it's one or the other. It could be both. And I'll tell you right now, it looks like it is. Leonard Williams trade was unforgivable. I mean, the thing is, Leonard Williams is like our best player right now, and we can't even be happy about it because it's a bad trade. Like Leonard Williams was awesome tonight, I think. I think he played a great game. Sean Payton is a much better coach than Pete. I mean, Sean Payton's one of the better coaches in the league. Yeah, of course. We can pay Williams if we want to. But point is, you shouldn't have made that big trade and then gone like this. Like, I think that some people don't grasp how big of a disaster it is to make an all in trade and then have your season fall apart immediately after it. Like, that is a reflection of complete delusion on the part of the people who made the trade. And that trade, I don't know how much of it was John, I don't know how much of it was Pete. But whoever was behind the Leonard Williams trade just completely misjudged things and they need to be held to account for it. Well, they had to extend Jamal Adams. They gave up a billion draft picks to get him. If we didn't extend Jamal Adams, that would have been even worse. Quit with the go routes to DK. I mean, DK's great on the go routes, though. It just, we didn't hit him today. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I think the go routes to DK are fine. You're just not always going to hit him. Jamal Adams played really good today. I think Jamal Adams is one of our best players. Now, is he worth the money? Of course not, but... Oh, looks like we got a tip. Hold on one second, guys. We got a $10 tip. I missed the message, though. 1 second. I'm going to have to go get it from Stream Elements. Thank you for the $10 tip, Anonymous. If it's Pete's job to hire the right coaches, get the players ready and disciplined, have game plans that pit our strengths against their weaknesses, and he can't do that, why do we still have Pete? This has been killing our team for 4 to 5 years now. I mean, that's exactly it right there, right? Like, there's not really any element of coaching that he seems to be doing well at right now. Once upon a time, he was a good motivator, but I'm not seeing motivation right now. This team no-shows several games a year. We no-showed the first Rams game. We no-showed the Ravens game. We mostly no-showed this game. What Hawks games have you been to in the past? The last Seahawks game I went to was the NFC Championship game against the Packers. It was me, Brendan. You're welcome. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate that. I didn't see McIntosh. He was active, but he didn't play. Another annoying thing about our process. You have an opportunity to get a look at an exciting young player on this team, and you don't give him a single snap. And by the way, I know it doesn't really matter, but did anybody else get furious when it was 31-13 with 5 minutes left and Geno Smith was still in the game? Like, that actually made me angrier than anything else that happened in this game. To be brutally honest, that I think made me angrier than anything else. Like, Geno Smith is playing injured. He's not 100% right now. If you want to leave him in after halftime because you think you can still come back, fine. But to leave Geno Smith in the fourth quarter when you're down 3 scores, like, that made me want to drop kick Pete. Like, the game's over, you moron. The game is over. And Geno's playing hurt. What do you think you're doing? Are you trying to get him injured for the season? Leaving him in knowing he's hurt, which didn't make sense. Like, you probably should have benched everybody. But at least bench Geno, the guy who's playing injured. The Kivers, thank you for the $10 super chat. Missed Thanksgiving with fam. Spent $1,000 to take my dad to this game. I let go of the outcome prior because I expected this. Had a great time. Pete was a great coach. Football has passed him by. Well, I mean, you found a way. You found a way to have fun. And that's the important part, I guess. But I wish the team could have done something to justify your purchase. Like, I think you put in more effort than most of the team did. I still have faith in Geno. I still am pretty okay with Geno. I'm not really... Again, I'm kind of laying off the players right now, guys. Some of these players, okay. Like, you want to criticize Woolen's tackling? Criticize it. That's definitely a problem that he's responsible for. But most of the players on this team, I'm kind of hesitant to really criticize them individually when I feel like so much of this stuff is coaching. Like, okay, Jason Myers, that's not coaching. Jason Myers needs to make kicks. Jason Myers needs to make kicks. That has nothing to do with scheme or coaching or none of it. So I get dumping on him. But like I don't agree with dumping on DK. I don't dump on Geno. even Wagner. Like, Wagner's really slow now, and sometimes you notice it in a very bad way, but that's the fault of the coaching staff for putting him in bad positions. Like, Bobby should not be covering receivers down the field. The fact that you are asking him to do that is a coaching problem, not a player problem, as far as I'm concerned. Is Woolen even an above average corner? I think he is, but he. The tackling is such a big problem against smart offenses. Like, smart offenses, like the Niners and Rams, are going to force Woolen to tackle over and over and over again. And if he can't do it, it's not going to work. Every quarterback has at least 3 to 4 bad games out of 17, especially right now. Especially right now. Like, there are no consistent quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There just aren't. Like, who are the best quarterbacks right now in the NFL? Like Tua's had bad games. Mahomes has had bad games. Like, Purdy's had bad games. Can you please answer my question before I head out? Why did Kenny McIntosh didn't play if he was active on the roster? Well, in fairness, if I'm being very, very generous right now, very, very generous right now, I would say that our offense never got into a flow that allowed us to rotate backs in and out consistently. So therefore, we never got to the McIntosh plays. I don't know if I don't know if we had plans to use him, but I think we did, and it just didn't happen because the offense never got going. I don't think we should hate on Myers missing 53 yarders. I do. 53 yarders should not be that big of a deal for the second highest paid kicker in the league. Like, that should be a normal kick. Mike McGee, thank you for the $5. Brendan, in percentages, how much to blame goes to Waldron, Pete, Gino for the struggling offense this year? Thanks, Go Hawks. Love that you're on Facebook. 100% Pete, 0% Waldron, 0% Gino. Okay, I don't actually know what the numbers are, but I'm very, very much believing that Gino and Waldron are kind of victims right now of what Pete's doing, and it's not going to get any better with him. Seahawks Press, thank you for the sub. Welcome to the channel. Honestly, I wish we got rid of Pete and Russ at the same time and did the rebuild with John and a coach he wanted. We could be Super Bowl contenders next year if that happened. I mean, I think the roster is going to be right there. I think our roster next year is going to be great. But right now, I'm reticent to believe that the coaching staff is going to allow that roster to thrive. Would you like Dan Quinn to step in and replace Pete? I mean, Dan Quinn didn't do very well as a head coach once already. I'm hesitant about that. While the Russ trade was obviously successful, I wonder if we would have been better off opting to get rid of Pete and live with Russ's limitations. No, definitely not. I mean, look, they're two independent entities, guys. Pete and Russ are not linked at the hip in some way. They're not the inverse of each other like that. Like, it was absolutely 100% time to move off of Russ when we did, and it's also now time for us to move off of Pete. Like, both things can be true. And both things are very much true. Honestly, what we need is guards and safeties and maybe a QB, and we are good to go. Yeah, I think you improve the interior offensive line. The roster is in really good shape. What do you think about Jim Harbaugh? He would probably want too much power. If Jim Harbaugh comes to the NFL, he's going to be like, I want $80 billion and I want GM power and I want a cheerleader to give me a lap dance every day, and I think he's going to want too much. Do we need a better center? I think Oluwatimi might be the guy. I like Oluwatimi, but Evan Brown has regressed brutally. Yeah, I think we got to try something different than DJ. Did you notice the lack of Seahawks fans in the stadium? I did, Washi. Yeah, I did very much. That I look, honestly, I got to be perfectly honest. I don't think anything that happens this season is going to get peed out. I just don't, deep down. So I still would like this team to make the playoffs because I want to have the extra game. And, I have an appreciation of that stuff. But if I believed that tanking here and falling apart would actually get peed out, I might be okay with that. But I don't believe that's going to happen. We're already at 6 wins. Like, it's not like we're going to go 2-15 here. The Kivers, thank you for the $2. Gino doesn't fail because of Gino, don't at me. I mean, I pretty much agree, Kivers. I think that Gino is what he is. I think Gino is the same guy that he was last year. And that you get out what you put in. You give Gino good stuff, he produces good stuff. You give Gino bad stuff, he gives you bad stuff. Jordan, thank you for the $5. I've wanted Pete gone 5 years ago. I'm at the point where I don't really care to keep watching this team until he's gone. I mean, I personally started to question Pete in 2019, and then I really kind of wanted him gone in 2021. I was done with it. I was over it. And then last year I had to lay off a little bit because he had success and things were going good. And then now I think we're back. The more games Seahawks play puts more money in Brendan's pocket for videos. I mean, honestly, I got to be honest, the days that I make the most money of the year on YouTube are free agency and the draft. During the season doesn't even come close to the money I make during the first wave of free agency and the draft. Those days go crazy. What is your opinion on Jarek Reed replacing somebody at safety in the future? I think that's probably going to happen, but that's obviously been pushed back because he tore his ACL. What are the scenarios in which Pete goes away? Maybe he gets pissed off. Maybe he quits because he can't handle the heat. Maybe like let's say for the rest of the home games this year, the Seahawks keep getting blown out and the fans start booing him like crazy. Maybe he's just like, well, I'm not having fun anymore. I'm out. I guess that could happen, right? How lucky do you think it is that the team is sold this offseason? I don't think it can be sold that quickly. I think we need to wait another year. I'm pretty sure the timeline doesn't work for that. Not sure if you've talked about it yet, but thoughts on Reek being benched? I mean, it it had to be done. Shanahan knows he can't tackle, and Shanahan is just going to keep forcing him into situations where he needs to tackle. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's like June of 2024. So by the time she can sell, you're already going to be done with the draft and free agency. So I don't think it's going to affect anything at that point. Wish we could have traded Drew before the deadline and got something out of it. I don't think that I don't think Drew had trade value. Could all 3 tight ends be gone next year? Yeah, very possible. All right, guys. We've been going for an hour now. I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I think we've said what I can. I think I've done everything that I can do in this stream. It's a bad time. It's bad times right now, but all I can say is that we've got more games to play and we've got more things to figure out. I'm going to keep making videos. I'm going to keep trying to figure this out. Thanks everybody for partaking. Thank you everybody for having fun tonight and trying to have a good time despite all this. So I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm probably gonna get on Twitch in a little bit and do a little Spider-Man. But if you're not into watching me on Twitch, then I will post videos tomorrow and we'll try to figure this out. We got the Huskies in 2 days. Got the Huskies in 2 days, so let's hopefully they get up for that one. We can complete the 12-0 season. See you guys later.